Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. A new trailer just dropped for Stranger Things Season 4, and if you're like me, you've been waiting on the edge of your seat for 3 years now, anxiously awaiting the new season. Well, let me tell you what, we are going to be in for a massive treat with Season 4. They've shoved so many new storylines and characters and mysteries into this season, I can't imagine where they're going to have any time for Dustin and Susie to sing another song together. Well, I guess nothing's really stopping them from breaking out into song during the finale again, unless that Demogorgon I paid off gets to her first. We'll just have to cross our fingers. But this trailer, the third out of the 4 trailers we're going to get, was entirely centered around a new family to the Stranger Things universe, the Creels. The trailer opens up in the 1950s and we're introduced to Victor Creel, his wife, and 2 children as they're pulling up to move into their new, soon-to-be haunted house where they will all eventually die. No, I'm just kidding. They don't all die. But everything seems to be fine and dandy. New life in the new house until some eerie things start happening. The electricity starts doing that flickering thing and lights are going out, and then all of a sudden, a dead rabbit shows up. Things are not looking good for the Creels so far. At this point in horror movies, you leave the house and burn it to the ground. So what do the Creels do? They sit down and eat dinner. Maybe it's the rabbit that their daughter found earlier on the lawn. They're not letting anything go to waste. But the lights start going crazy, the radio goes in and out, and then it just cuts. It cuts to Victor standing over the bodies of his children for half a second, and then it cuts to present day. What on earth happens in that split second we get to see? We're going to get to that in a second, because now we've got the new Hawkins gang breaking and entering Scooby-Doo style to solve this mystery, and once again, as they're exploring the house, the lights start flickering on and off, and the electricity seems like it's trying to power up. Where have we seen this before? Good thing Joyce moved away or she'd be running for her Christmas lights by now. But then a pleasant surprise. A British accent chimes up and says,
"The world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes."
Dustin was very impressive with the British accent, but also, what obvious things are we supposed to be looking at that we've been missing this entire time? And then we finally make it upstairs to where the infamous clock has been sitting that they've been teasing since literally day 1 of promoting season 4. This clock is the key to everything. It's been everywhere. And I can't wait to dive into my theories about this in a second, but very quickly, we see the clock flashes us to the upside down as something causes the glass to start to break on the clock's face. I'm telling you, this clock is where it all began. And then we get an underwhelming reconfirmation that season 4 will still be released in 2022. When in 2022 will it be released? We have no idea. Personally, my guess is early 2022, like March or April, and I'll tell you why in a second. But at face value, that is the new trailer. Pretty crazy in itself, super creepy vibes, closer to what we got in season 1 versus the more lighthearted approach they took in season 3. But let's rewind real quick and take a closer look at everything we just missed. If you're a fan of Stranger Things and love hearing theories about season 4, go down and hit that subscribe button with your mind powers. I'll be doing more Stranger Things videos as we get closer to the release of season 4, and you're not going to want to miss them. We're leaving everyone who's unsubscribed actually in the upside down, so don't get left behind. Now, starting off with this trailer, they did something that we've never seen before with this show. They started in the 1950s, a completely different era than the 80s. The entirety of Stranger Things takes place in the 80s, except for a quick flashback with Terry Ives that we've seen, but everything else is the 80s. And personally, seeing this different time period, I think they hit the nail on the head. The style, the music, the clothes, everything. They did a really good job, and this is super creepy. I can't wait to see more of it. The day before they dropped this trailer, the Stranger Things Twitter account dropped a teaser of newspaper clippings about the Creel murders, and they had some pretty interesting facts hidden in it. The first thing I noticed is that this murder takes place on March 25th, 1959. That is, if the murder happened the day before this newspaper came out. Originally, when we were talking about the Chernobyl theories for season 4, we were estimating an April 26th release date because that matches up with when Chernobyl happens in 1986. But late March isn't too far off. Usually, whatever happens in the seasons of Stranger Things correlates with the actual date that the season releases. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get a release date around March 25th. Just remember that. Next, the headline of the newspaper says "Vengeful Demon Killed Family." And I don't know if you remember, but the end of season 3, we saw all that news propaganda about D&D and demons and all the demonic stuff they thought was going on. This newspaper title goes on to question if it was a killer or a tragic victim of a vengeful spirit. This was accompanied by a quote from Victor Creel after the murder saying, "I thought I was dying, so I was flooded with relief, but there was a sense of terrible grief too." as if he wasn't in control of himself. We also get it confirmed that their house was in fact in Hawkins. Originally, I was curious if they had to travel out of Hawkins to find this house, but nope, it's smack dab in the middle of Hawkins where it all started. And that's basically it for the newspaper. It lets us know what's coming in this trailer. It's kind of ironic that season 3 ends with the Byers moving away from Hawkins and season 4 is starting with the Creel moving to Hawkins. One family is moving into the problem while the other is moving away from the problem. For the 1950s segment, we can hear the song Dream a Little Dream of Me by Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong. This song is something somewhat romantic when played alone. You can kind of see a couple in the 40s dancing in their home to it. But when you put it over murders in a creepy house, it becomes the most terrifying creepy song ever. It was written by a woman who was longing for her Prince Charming of a man to come find her and dream of her and hold her and love her and miss her. I think this song was also a little Easter egg to Freddy Krueger, as they got the original actor, Robert Englund, to play Victor Creel this season. What I found was really crazy is that we see the electricity and lights having problems just like we do in season 1 with Joyce when there's some upside down activity going on. That means that the upside down or something in the upside down was causing problems in this house back in the 1950s. That's crazy. Then we see the daughter walk down the steps to find the dead rabbit. And there's something interesting about this that someone in the Discord helped me find. I'm not going to zoom in on it just because it's a little gross, but if you look closely for yourself, you can see that the rabbit's eyes have been gouged out. Now, recently, in an interview, Robert Englund casually dropped the biggest spoiler on accident without even batting an eye, where he goes on to say that his character will eventually gouge his own eyes out and become blind.
I recently did an episode of Stranger Things.
No, I've heard.
And I'm blind in it. I gouged out my eyes and I'm blind. A spoiler alert.
Now, I doubt he does this on his own will, so whatever possessed him to kill his family eventually might possess him again and punish him for telling the kids some information by making him gouge his own eyes out or something. Maybe this same spirit possessed the rabbit and forced him to gouge his own eyes out, or it was possibly Victor when he was possessed the day of the murders. There's some connection underneath all this, but I thought that little detail was very interesting. I also thought it was very interesting that as soon as we see the dead animal, it cuts to them eating, as if they're eating the rabbit. I don't think this is the case, but just something to make your skin crawl, you know? And when we do see Victor standing over the kids like that, he certainly looks possessed. He doesn't look like his right self, and I don't know if you recognize this or if many of you have seen this, but this also resembles a very similar scene from The Shining where a father gets away with killing his 2 children as well. In fact, this whole scenario of the father going crazy and killing his whole family is very similar to what happens to Jack in the Overlook in The Shining. We know very little about Victor Creel after the fact. We know that he claims the murders weren't him and he doesn't recall it, and then soon after, he was admitted to a mental hospital where he'll stay at until the gang finds him to talk to him in season 4. There was some pictures leaked on set of Nancy and Robin going to the hospital to talk to him, but something about all this just rubs me the wrong way. I can't help but feel that Dr. Brenner has his hand in all this. Yes, you heard me right, Dr. Brenner. No, he's not dead. They confirmed he's alive, and I couldn't help but wonder if he had something to do with the Creel murders, since they're obviously connected to the Upside Down, and Brenner would be there in a heartbeat if he knew. But this is 1959. This was 23 years before season 1. Would Brenner even be testing with MK Ultra then? Yup, MK Ultra moved to Hawkins' lab in 1953, 6 years before the Creel murders happened. In 53, Brenner was involved in MK Ultra, the CIA research program that Eleven eventually came from. But get this, here's where it gets interesting. So Brenner with MK Ultra used to go to college students for their experiments, which is how they found Terry Ives, Eleven's mom. But before they used college students, they used to experiment on subjects from mental asylums. What if Brenner knew of the Creel murders and Victor's connection to the Upside Down and whatever possessed him, so he had him sent to a mental hospital where he then was able to run experiments on him? I'm so curious about this. Brenner is way too sus to not be involved at all. I can only imagine. Next, we've got the kids coming into this house 23 years after the murders to search for clues. No doubt Victor tipped them off to something important here. It's so cool to see the gang all back together again. And we can really see that 3-year gap here in between season 3 and these trailers. All the kids look so grown up now. I can only hope they're going to start shooting season 5 soon so they're not in college by the time they get back to renegotiating their contracts for more money. But anyway, Steve drops the backpack on the ground and would you look at that? A little Ghostbusters Easter egg. Not only did the kids dress up as the Ghostbusters to go trick-or-treating in season 2, but Finn is actually in the upcoming Ghostbusters movie Afterlife. Super excited about that. 1000% sure it'll be better than that Girl remake with Hemsworth. But also, if you take an even closer look, we can see that Dustin packed extra batteries this time. I love this! In Season 3, there was a crucial moment where in the heat of Eleven fighting off the Mind Flare, Dustin tries to tell Mike that Russians have invaded Hawkins, but he's unable to because his walkie-talkie runs out of batteries. At least he's a smart guy and learned from his mistakes, because it doesn't look like that'll be happening again.
Do you have any batteries, AA?
Why would I have batteries?
Moving on, as the kids explore more, we see lights start to flicker in this old abandoned house where nobody is paying the electric bill. And the fact that the lights are still going off here means for sure some upside down activities are happening. This was the same type of activity that was happening the night when Creel got possessed and killed his family. Now, this next shot took me a while to figure out. I can't tell for the life of me what Steve is carrying up the stairs. We also see Robin and Max following close behind. It really looks like a rose. I want to think that because of the way he's carrying it in front of him and holding it gently, it looks like an old flip-up compass of some sorts, or maybe a wayfinder that led the kids to the house in the first place. But as you look closer, it looks like it's an actual rose. And if you look at the stained glass window on the door, there's the same thing, another rose. So maybe it is a rose, but if it was, I would have no idea why on earth he'd be carrying a rose. Maybe whatever he's holding is some kind of wayfinder that is attracted to whatever upside down power is coming from the clock. Maybe it was the first gateway to the upside down. Maybe the clock was the human's first ever interaction with the upside down and the power within. Maybe that's where the first tear started so long ago, and Victor interacted with it and invited whatever's in there into this world, and it possessed him and killed his family. Maybe that's why Brenner wants to study him. As the kids walk past it, we hear Dustin say that the world is full of obvious things which nobody by any chance ever observes, which is an old Sherlock Holmes quote from The Hound of the Baskervilles. Holmes says this to Watson after he returns from his club, and then goes on to explain that he had traveled around in spirit that day from the ease of his armchair. By observing and managing many details at once, he was able to recreate everything in his imagination so he could construct all the possible interpretations for his different observations from his living room. He is able to travel around while in the confines of his imagination. And usually with teasers, the Duffer Brothers are using these lines to speak to us, the audience. So what's so obvious? What's in front of our faces that's the key to everything that we're not observing? The clock? The upside down? Hawkins? We don't know. Comment down below what you think it is. It's definitely nice also to see Steve and Dustin working together again. Their dynamic and storyline was one of my favorites in Season 3, and I loved their bonding time in Season 2. I noticed something else super interesting in this shot, linking to the second teaser we got. Look at the clock. What time is it? It's 3 a.m. Do you remember? If you don't, basically 3 a.m. is known as the witching hour. It's said to be the hour when supernatural activity is the strongest. We also saw it be 3 a.m. in the second teaser when Dr. Brenner walked in and addressed the kids to first introduce Eleven to the other children and undoubtedly show off her powers. Now, it does look like it was daytime when the kids first entered the house, just from how bright it is outside, but in the attic shot, it looks much dimmer, as if it's moonlight shining through the ceiling. Maybe it's a full moon or something. And I wouldn't be surprised if the kids come back and revisit the house, as I'm sure it has something very important to do with the upside down, and possibly even its origin. I would love to see that the clock has something to do with the creation of the upside down. We also see the glass on the face of the clock slowly start to break, as if something has a hold over it and it's squeezing it, or something is trying to come out of this tear between the worlds. And I can't help but wonder, with all this clock stuff, if there's going to be any time travel in this season. They've pointed to clocks every time Season 4 has ever been brought up. I just feel like it would be so weird if they introduced time travel this far into the show. The only way I can think of them introducing time travel into the show is if it was in the show from the beginning all along. If each time they were going into the upside down, they were traveling super far into the future where the Earth turned into this gross dystopia upside down, overrun by the Mind Flayer and all his minions. Maybe that shot of the kids walking up the stairs in the reflection of the clock was to represent the kids about to travel through time. Who knows? It's a far-fetched, but so is the entire show in general. Anything can happen. Please tell me in the comments if I missed anything or if you have any theories on Season 4. Also, make sure to turn the notification bell on so you don't miss my next Stranger Things video. And until next time, I will see you in the comments. Peace.